सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। So following up on the discourse on Chandogya Upanishad, what the teacher further said. Many things were said, but then, as he said, after making this statement, he was explaining how this is the material as the efficient cause, one without a second, and then if we closely look at anything, we find that everything is nothing but the play of the Sat or existence, Asti Bhati Priyam. And the method of showing it was by, as we said, telling us a story. That in the beginning, all there was Asti Sat Chit Ananda, and then he deliberated, may I become many? And thus it manifested or it appeared as the element fire, and further appeared as the element water, then further appeared as the element earth, meaning these three colors, red, white and black. And the teacher shows by a number of examples as to how we can see that whatever there is in the universe is a play or a combination of these three colors, red, white and black. And that means all of these are nothing but three elements alone. So what we call sun, what we call moon, what we call lightning, what we call fire, what we call anything, reduces itself nothing but these three elements, the fundamental building blocks from which everything is made. And what are these three elements also? The element earth also, when we find or when we look for its cause or the source, we find that earth is really non-different from its cause, which is water. And the water also is non-different from its cause, which is fire. And fire is non-different from its final ultimate cause, namely Sat. And this is how the teacher shows how everything is nothing but Sat or existence. And as I said, what is existence also is awareness, and what is awareness also is fullness, and so everything is nothing but Satchit Ananda. Having said then, the teacher says, Aitadatma vidam sarvam. Aitadatmam. That idam sarvam. Heshveta get to understand that idam sarvam, all this there is. And as we said, when we say all this, that all this should include not ever whatever it is that I perceive, but should also include even my own body, sense organs, mind, intellect, because all of that also falls in the category of this. And so the whole creation has its Atma. So has its Atma in Sat. This means that Sat is the Atma of all of this. And then it said, tat satyam saha atma tat tvamasi. So the teacher showed how the Sat alone, in fact, reveals or manifests itself as the whole universe, saying therefore Sat is really the Atma, the very essence of whatever there is, the whole universe. Tat Satyam, and that is the truth. So Tat means that. That is the truth. So this Sat, so here that means Sat. Hey Shvetaketu, recognize that this Sat is the Atma, the essence of everything, and that Sat alone is the truth. You know what is meant by truth? Truth is that which cannot be denied or that which cannot be negated and that which cannot be displaced. Just as when I give the example of a pot, we say that the clay is the truth of the pot inasmuch as the form and the name of the pot, well, the pot breaks and then it gets a different name and a different form, and you crush it further, its name and form keeps on changing. But while all this, so that means one form is negated by another form, and that form is negated or displaced by another form. So when this one form displaces another form, what cannot be displaced or what cannot be negated in this process is the clay. So when the pot is, then also the clay is. Pot breaks, there are shreds, then also the clay is. The name has changed, and you further crush it, there are pebbles, the name and form has changed, then also clay is there. And you further crush it, there is powder, then also the name and form has changed, then also is a clay. So we say that with reference to the example of a pot, clay is that which cannot be negated. And therefore, the clay is the truth. So that is called truth, which is This is the definition of truth that Vedanta gives, non-negatable, that which cannot be negated. Regardless of what you do, what you cannot get rid of, what you cannot negate, what you cannot be without, that is the truth. Is it not so? Because what's the truth of an ornament? Nothing but gold if it's a golden ornament, because the forms can keep changing, but then what does not change, what cannot be negated, that it cannot be further reduced to. So then it means that the whole universe can be reduced to this principle called Sat. It cannot be further reduced. You can call it the irreducible substratum. So that will be the truth or the most fundamental building block, beyond which there can be no further reduction, no further division, and thus the whole universe can be reduced to or will resolve into Sat, and which cannot be further negated. Therefore, that is the truth. Tat Satyam Saha, and he is self. So what is the truth? Saha Atma. In fact, hey Shvetaketu, this Sat, which is Satyam, the truth, itself is the Atma, itself is the self of the whole universe. Alright, that Sat is Satyam, is truth, and is the self of the whole universe. So what does it mean to me? Then it said, Tat Tvamasi Shvetaketu. So this is a statement. I give you the whole statement, but then this is a part of the statement, Tat Tvamasi. Hey Shvetaketu, that which is the essence of the whole universe, and that which is the truth or reality of life, which is the self, Hey Shvetaketu, that you are. Meaning what? You are the essence of everything. You are the self of everything. In fact, you are everything, because nothing can be other than self. When we say that the clay is the self of the pot, which means that the pot is really clay. Hey Shvetaketu, indeed, you really are everything. Meaning thereby that you are God, you are Brahman or you are God. When God is properly understood as Sat or Satyam. So as we have been saying, that God has two aspects. One is the essential aspect, other is the incidental aspect. God also is a person having a personality. I am a person having a personality, and where the difference is in the personality. But the person that God is and the person that I am are one alone. Tattvamasi. Shvedaketu, He Shvedaketu. This is what? That thou art. So this is how this Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, is unfolded in the Chandogya Upanishad. Now we can go back to our text, wherein in 2 verses the author in fact explains this statement, Tattvamasi, or that thou art. In your handout, the verse number 5. So this statement has 3 words. Tat, Tvam, Asi. Tat means that, Tvam means you, Asi means are, that thou art, or that you are. So we must understand the meaning of each word in order for us to understand the meaning of the statement or sentence. So in the 5th verse, the author of this text explains the meaning of the word tat or that in that statement. Let me read, you please repeat after me. Ekameva dvitiyam sat, ekameva dvitiyam sat, nama rupa vivarjitam, nama rupa vivarjitam. सृष्टेः पुराधुनाप्यस्य सृष्टेः पुराधुनाप्यस्य तादृक्त्वं तदितीर्यते तादृक्त्वं तदितीर्यते. Ekam advitiyam sat. If you remember the statement that I wrote earlier, Ekam eva advitiyam, one without a second. See, this is explained as, so one without a second in fact eliminates all forms of division. There are different kinds of divisions obtaining. The divided divisions obtaining of different kinds. One is what we call these 2 are flowers. And so both of them are flowers. These 2 objects belong to the same jati or the same class, and still they are different. And therefore, the difference obtaining between them is called sajatiya, meaning the difference between the members of the same class. Here is a flower, here is a crystal. These 2 objects do not belong to the same class, they belong to different class, they are different. So difference between these 2 objects is the difference obtaining between the objects of 2 different classes. So that is called Vijatiya. Sajatiya Bheda, Vijatiya Bheda. Bheda means the difference or division obtaining between the members of the same class. Vijatiya Bheda, the division obtaining between members of different class. And Swagata, even though the flower is one, it has a number of petals. Each petal is different from the other petal. And thus, this difference or division obtaining within an object is called Swagata, that is within oneself, within itself. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata. That is the difference obtaining between members of the same class, the difference obtaining between the members of 2 different classes, and difference is obtaining within the members of the same object, between the parts of the same object. When they say Ekam eva advitiyam, one without a second, it eliminates all these 3 forms of divisions, that Sat or existence is free from the division obtaining between the members of the same class, of different class, and within itself. Just to show you, threefold divisions. One is called Sajatiya. Among members of the same class. Vijatiya. Among members of different classes. Difference obtained among the parts of a given object. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata. So, in our life also these kind of differences are there, that even though we are all human beings, among us there is a difference. That you are one human being, I'm another human being, there is a difference or division. This first one, the division obtaining between the members of the same class. And I am different from the insentient world. I am sentient, the world is insentient, difference obtaining between members of a different class. And within me also, there are differences, that my hands and legs and all these limbs are different from one another, and that's the difference obtaining within the same object, the same member. So this Sat, that means Brahman. Is Ekam Eva Advitiyam, which means one, only, non-dual. So the question is, now in our experience, so many differences are there, so many divisions are there. Our life is characterized by differences or divisions obtaining. The Upanishad says that all these divisions are only apparent, they are not real. So we find difference obtaining between different human beings and insentient things, and within human beings also the differences are there. But that all the differences or divisions really are not ultimately, when you analyze anything, it will reduce to just one thing, namely Sat. In Sat or existence, from which the whole universe is emerged, that existence of Sat or Brahman is what? Is that which does not admit of the Sajatiya. There is one Sat and another Sat, that I also exist, you also exist, she also exists. It may appear that the existence that I am is different from the existence that you are. Says no, in existence there is no division at all. So there are not many existences, there is only one Sat. Vijatiya. You may say, Swamiji, Brahman is there, but there is Maya also. So is it not that Brahman is real and Maya is unreal, and therefore can they not be counted as two? Answer is no, because just as I am there and my reflection is there. Can we count them as two? No. And so thank God, otherwise Vimla may have to provide for many rooms, If we have to, you have to accommodate you will give separate room, for the reflections also, and then meals and so forth, then it will be a big problem, but that is not so. Because when I am counted, the reflection is as well counted. And therefore, Maya is comparable to, or our famous example of rope and snake. So, can the rope and snake be counted as two different objects? Not really, because what is that is only rope and snake is merely an appearance. And so Maya is like an appearance and therefore cannot be counted as something separate. And therefore there is nothing other than Sat belonging to a different class. Alright, within Sat are there divisions. Within Sat there existence also, there are no divisions at all. And those Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata. It is partless. And therefore no divisions within. It is boundless and therefore it is not exclusive, it doesn't exclude anything, it is inclusive of everything and therefore does not admit of a second. So the truth of Sat is Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Bheda, Shunyam, meaning devoid of the divisions of Sajatiya, Vijatiya and Swagata. It is therefore indivisible, undivided and indivisible. Just as space cannot be divided. See, why there is a need to say this is because we think that all these differences are there. Our life is based on the differences. And that's what causes all the problems. But are the differences that we experience, are these real differences? The difference obtaining between you and I, is it a real difference? Just as space, in fact, space is a very good example of this, that space also does not admit of any divisions. You can't divide space. Although by erecting walls, it appears as though the space has been divided into many halls or many cubicles and whatever, and it looks as though the space is within those walls, but the truth is altogether different. The walls are in the space and not the other way around, and therefore what the division in the space is merely an appearance and not a real thing. And space is partless and within the space there is no division. There is only one space and no second space and therefore no division of the class. And Vijatiya, we can't say space is Brahman, therefore space, of course, is some problem, but there is space and there is air and other elements. So this Vijatiya, this kind of difference is there, but then space is a good example of how the divisions may appear to be there, but not really there. So that is how. So Brahman is devoid of all kinds of divisions. That Brahman, He Shvetaketu, that you are. Meaning what? You are the one who is devoid of any kind of division. Although you think that you are different from the world. You are sentient, different from insentient. You are sentient, different from another sentient. And within you also there are so many divisions. He says, no, you in fact are one whole, one undivided and indivisible. See, something can be undivided, but you can divide it and make parts. This is undivided and indivisible. And remember, we are not talking of Brahman that is an entity, that is just some entity different from me. We are talking of Brahman that is nothing but my own self. So it's all story of I. It's all the story of myself. That when it is said, generally we say Brahman is undivided and Brahman is indivisible and Brahman is limitless and Brahman is infinite. Vedanta says that Brahman you are, and therefore replace that word Brahman by I. And say that I am undivided, I am indivisible, I am whole. How can it be, Swami? Then you must understand what the meaning of I is. I find that I am divided, I find that I am not a whole, I find that I am incomplete. So this is my perception of myself. Now we have two perceptions. This is what we call pramana, meaning this is what the Upanishad says. And therefore, we accept it as a valid means of knowledge, and this is a very authentic statement. But my own experience about myself is quite contrary. Whereas Upanishad says that you are undivided, indivisible, you are whole, you are one, and there is no second thing at all, you are everything. My experience is that I am one insignificant creature among countless, and thus I suffer from every form of division. So my experience is different from what the Upanishads tell us. Then what should we do? Either we can discard or reject what the Upanishad says because it is not in keeping with my experience, Or we can analyze our experience. Or we can accept the statement of Upanishad just to give it a benefit of doubt. I don't say that we accept it, but at least give a benefit of doubt to what the Upanishad says, and then ask whether is it my experience that I am really divided, or is it my interpretation? Is it my experience or is it my interpretation of what I experience? You see, we say that this is my experience. It may not be my experience. It may be an interpretation of my experience. And thus you may say, it is my Swami, I've seen the snake there. I've seen him. Alright. Is it really your experience or is it the interpretation of your experience? And so, but my gut feeling is that I am a limited being. Whether it's a gut feeling or whatever feeling, every feeling needs to be scrutinized. Vedanta does not take anything for granted. Therefore, the feeling that you have that you are a limited being, is it feeling that is a reality about you? Or you're looking at one thing and concluding about yourself? That can also happen. Sometimes it can happen that I'm looking at the mirror and I find that, oh, something happened. See, in the Indian Railways, you are traveling, the overnight journey, you are sleeping in your berth, early morning you wake up, half asleep and half awake, go into the bathroom, look at the mirror, all of a sudden you find your face is distorted. And you think that something has happened to you over the night, maybe you had a stroke or something. What it is, the mirror is distorted. And so you see that distortion, all right? And if you conclude that I am distorted, which means what? The distortion obtaining in one place is superimposed upon another one. So when it is said I am distorted, then what? The distorted belongs to mirror and I am belongs to I, and I am combining the two, I am lumping them together. Similarly also, when I say that I am limited, it is possible that limited belongs to some place and I am belongs to another place, and maybe I am lumping them together. That is what Vedanta says, this lumping these two things together. If you remember when we started this series of talks, we were at the topic of what we call adhyasa or adhyaropa, lumping together. Lumping together is Swami's term, lump things together. Technically it is called superimposition. Imposing what belongs into one place, imposing it upon the other. And therefore, so examining this gut feeling that I have, that I am a limited being. I am small, insignificant, helpless. This is my conclusion about myself. Or you can say this is my experience about myself. But is it an experience or is it a conclusion? Because we would say that, in fact, this statement is made up of two aspects. One is I am, other is small. I've taken for granted that the I am and small are located in the same place. I am and small enjoy the same locus. This is what I've taken for granted. But then Upanishad tells us that no, the I am is in one locus and the small is in another locus. What are the locuses? I am is the person. And the small, etc. is what? The personality. So I am is located on the person, and rest is all located on the personality. What is this personality? That is his body, my sense organs, my mind, intellect. This makes up what we call the personality. And who is the person? The one that imparts sentiency to this, one that imparts the intelligence to this, one that imparts the existence to this, one that imparts the the attraction to this. So that which makes this existent, that which makes this sentient, that which makes it attractive, so that this personality enjoys an existence, that it becomes an object of my knowledge, or that it is pleasing me, it is not because of itself, but all that existence, the intelligence and the pleasingness, all of these are borrowed. So these two things obtaining in different locuses are combined together, lumped together, and then we come to the conclusion that I am small. Like concluding, this is a snake. In this also, this belongs to one. What does it belong? It belongs to one locus, which is the rope. And the snake belongs to another locus, and that is my projection, my imagination, and we lump them together and come to the conclusion that this is a snake. I call it experience. Swami, I have experienced, I have seen it with my own eyes, but whatever I experience and see with my own eyes also may not be the reality. And it is my own eyes I have seen. My own experience is that I am a mortal being. I am an ignorant being. I am a small limited being. I am an unhappy being. I am a wanting being. But all that want and everything else doesn't belong to I, it belongs to the personality. So I look at my body. Just as looking at the mirror, I conclude that my face is distorted. Similarly also, I look at the body. Then I conclude that I am a mortal being. I was born, I am going to die. I look at my mind, and then I conclude that I am a small, limited being. I look at my intellect, and I conclude that I am an ignorant person. So that I am ignorant, or that I am small, that I am mortal, that I am unhappy, all these conclusions are because all these limitations belonging to aspects of personality are taken to myself. I am looking at my mind, so in my mind a thought occurs, happy. And then what do I say? I am happy. In my mind a thought occurs, unhappy. What do I say? I am unhappy. No, this is what I am doing. This happy, unhappy, all of these are the thoughts. And who am I? I am the witness of those thoughts. But rather than accepting, or rather than living up to the status of witness, what happens is I become one with what I have witnessed. Just as while watching the movie, I am a spectator, but then I forget that I am a spectator. And then I become one, identified with what's going on in the movie, and start feeling the same way that the person in the movie is feeling. I feel unhappy, miserable. The tears are coming from my eyes. Why, Swami, what happened? I lost the lottery. Where is the lottery? I lost $1 million. Oh, you don't even have 1 million pennies with you. Where's the question? But that's what happened there. But then I feel the pain, in fact, which belongs to other place. This is called lumping together. This is called adhyasa, superimposition. And therefore, every feeling of smallness and sadness, it all arises on account of lumping these two things. That is why the teaching is necessary. If being a small did not cause any problem to me, there would have been no problem. If I could accept my status as being small, I am a small person. Swami, I am happy. You can't do anything to that person. I am a limited being. I am happy being limited. Suppose one can say that. Oh, I was insulted. I am happy being insulted. If you could say that, then Vedanta is not necessary at all. But I am not happy. I am not happy being small. I am not happy being limited. I am not happy being rejected. I am not happy being insulted. I am not happy being ignored. Therefore, Vedanta has to say that you are the one who cannot be ignored, cannot be hurt, cannot be insulted. In what way? By what we need to do. So what we have done is lumping them together. Now what we have to do is to separate them. Separate the person from the personality. That separation is called viveka. separation. Separate the, where in fact there are two, we take them to be one. This is called Brahma or delusion. So the two are taken to be one. What are the two? The person and the personality are two. But then I take them to be one. So where there are two, I take them to be one. Where there is one, I take them to be two. Where is one? The Brahman and I are one. I take them to be two. And the person and the personality are two, I take them to be one. This is the basic problem, and that's all that the Upanishad has to teach. Rest we can all work out. What to do with this knowledge? Once this knowledge is clear, everything becomes clear. That the main purpose in my main objective in my life of all my efforts is to carry out this separation, not keep on adding into this personality. And what I do right now is I'm trying to become big. I'm trying to become immortal. Where? At the level of the personality. And that is impossible. But to recognize that what I'm trying to become is what I already am. So that is what is meant by Tattvamasi, that thou art. That thou art. What is that? That is God. Thou is you, the individual. R means what? Equal. And so, this word asi, which means R, that in fact shows the equality between these two tat and tvam. You mean this Upanishad says that I am God? That is a blasphemy to God. I mean, I am God? Not what I take myself to be today, but what I really am. And not what I take God to be, but what God really is. So what is happening is that just as I am also a person having a personality, so also God also is a person having a personality. It is not meant to say that the personality that God is equal to the personality that I am. There is no intention of saying that. Because who am I? My personality is what? Small in every way. I am limited in my knowledge, limited in capabilities, limited in pervasiveness, limited in power, limited in every way. And who is God? What is His personality? Every way free from limitation. Limitation, not limited in knowledge, not limited in power, not limited in pervasiveness, and thus He possesses all those in total measure. Therefore, there is no equation at all as far as the personality is concerned. Where is the equation? So this is called the great equation. This means that that is equal to you. What is that? That person is equal to you person. That is from God also. So this person is the what we call the inherent. And the personality is incidental. understand that the smallness that you're experiencing about yourself is only incidental. Like an actor playing the role of a beggar, that beggar is incidental. Or he may become a king also, the king is incidental. What is he? Inherently, he is an actor. Inherently, he is a very wealthy person. Even though he appears as a beggar, that beggarliness is only incidental, doesn't belong to him. Even when he appears as beggar, he is a very wealthy person. Similarly also, you are wearing this costume of the personality, which is very limited, no doubt. But even when you take yourself to be a small or limited being, what are you? You are that, which means you are limitless. So what is important is to settle account with our own self. First, about my conclusions about myself. That do I have a valid reason to hold on to the various conclusions I have about myself? Do I have a valid reason? That is how Upanishad performs an inquiry. That who are you? You are the very witness. You are the witness of your body, witness of your mind, witness of your sense organs. You are the spectator of all of these things, and not you. You are not one with them. Like somebody may dream, tell me, why are you crying, Swamiji? Because of whatever happened there. Why are you crying? I think that it happened to me. Somebody will enlighten me, Swamiji, you are just a spectator. Nothing has happened. Nobody has left you. Nobody has deserted you. Nobody has done anything to you. You are safe and secure. And thus, there is what we call viveka, separation. What happens there and what I am. And similarly also, what is necessary in our life is a separation, viveka, of what I am and what this personality is. Then I can understand that yes, God also is the same consciousness, same indivisible wholeness, having a personality that is called Maya, which is omniscience, omnipotent, omnipresence. All of these are also incidental aspect of God. And in truth, God also is the same limitless consciousness that I am. And that's how this equation is being told here, that is equated with how. Equation requires a lot of work to be done. It's nice to write that and nice to know, understand, which is beautiful. But then we have to live. Now this can help us how to live our life. This is the Indian culture. It's all based on this. The whole culture is based on this. In which way? Well, that my life would be one wherein now there is an attempt to slowly and slowly disassociate myself with identification and personality, or equating myself with the personality. So when I equate myself with the personality, I am called the ego. And today what I am doing is all the time promoting my ego. Meaning that I am all the time trying to glorify my personality by adding things into that. And continue to feel small anyway. Regardless of how big I become, I continue to remain small and insignificant regardless of what people tell me or whatever world thinks of me. I know what I am. So rather than keep on making additions to this personality in order to feel a sense of significance, live a way of life wherein there is more and more recognition of what you really are. So a life of acquisition is what is a life right now. I think that by acquiring and by possessing and by owning up and by enjoying, that I would become bigger and better than what I am. But recognizing that the bigger and better I already am. I don't have to become big. I don't have to become better. All I need to do is remove that ignorance and all the various notions caused by ignorance. And thus a process of giving up, rather a process of dropping. So my life should become a process of dropping all these various demands and various notions and complexes that I have, rather than adding to the complexes. Here today I am MS, MSc, PhD, I keep on adding things to myself. That's okay, you may do that as far as your, vyavahara, as far as your transactional life is concerned, that's all necessary, useful. But within myself I should know that the process is what? Of dropping things. That is what is called renunciation. Renunciation is not in giving up material possessions, which is okay, it's convenient to do that, if it is. But real renunciation is dropping all these complexes, all the expectations, all the demands, demanding that things should be different from what they are, that everything should be such as to become favorable to me, everything should serve my purpose. So this is my approach to life. On the other hand, Lord Krishna says, live a life the other way around. You serve the purpose of others. You become favorable to others. Let there be an attitude of giving and offering. So this understanding of this fundamental truth about ourselves completely changes the process. Actions may remain the same. Actions may remain the same, but whereas today my actions are a means of acquiring what I don't have, I can perform now the actions as a means of dropping the complexes that I have. Let every action become a means of dropping my attachment, raga, dvesha, or my demands. Meaning that when I perform an action, it is not to fulfill a demand that I have. Rather than that, when I perform an action, it may be a process of offering my demand. Rather than demanding that the world should become favorable to me, that I may become a servant of the world, servant of the Lord. That is how this seva, this service, or this spirit of yajna or offering comes in. The values change, and we will find that all the values also are basically based on this truth only. When they ask us to observe the values of non-violence or truthfulness, what is truthfulness? What is non-violence? This person, the consciousness, the self, that self of all is the only truth because it never changes. It is non-violent because it does not violate anything, it does not oppose anything. He provides sattva and smriti, existence and intelligence to everything, regardless of how the personality is, and therefore Brahman is the self of even a sinner as well as a saint, with no distinction at all. And therefore, this doesn't observe any distinction, doesn't violate anything, doesn't hurt anything. It treats everything and everybody as equal. That's how treating equality also becomes a value, non-violence becomes a value, truthfulness becomes a value, non-pretentiousness becomes a value, compassion or acceptance becomes a value. So we find that all the values also are basically derived from this truth of life. Otherwise, if my nature is violent, if I am violent in nature, inherent nature is violence, and if I am asked to observe non-violence, that will contradict my nature. If by nature I am untruthful inherently, and I am asked to observe truth, again that will violate my nature. But what the scriptures are asking us to do is just live a life in accordance to the inherent nature that I am. Then there is harmony. That's how the self-respect or the self-honor also comes. Then that becomes a process of growth which culminates into discovering this truth about myself. And so the life now becomes a process of inner growth, and in the process of inner growth, if outer growth happens, that's fine. If it doesn't happen, then also it is fine. Then life becomes one of yoga. Tasmat yogi bhava. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhava Arjuna. Lord Krishna said, "Hey Arjuna, therefore, at all the times, become one, endowed with yoga, endowed with this perception of life." So first of all, Vedanta gives us the perception of life, and then tells us what should be the way of life so that this perception becomes a reality. It is not enough that I am Brahman, but that I am Brahman should become a reality for me, and that needs a lot of work. To understand this, of course, needs work. But having understood the reality of life, to understood the truth of the life, to make it a reality for me, requires a lot of work. So even on one hand, Vedanta means knowledge and no work. But the preparation of that knowledge needs a lot of work, and assimilating knowledge also needs a lot of work. And so there is no respite. Not that, path of knowledge, meaning that if you can fold up your hand, that also is fine, but that you can't do. That's what Lord Krishna says to Arjuna. Arjuna, if you want to retire with your hands and legs unfolded and you are that's not possible for you, because as long as there is this restlessness within yourself, it will not let you sit peacefully at all. So as long as the restlessness is there, let it express itself in the form of creative action. What action? Action in the form of yajna, seva, offering. And thus when that restlessness is largely taken care of, then you discover some peace within yourself, then you are ready to retire, meaning to renounce. Alright, I need not have to perform any duties now, I am ready, now there is self-acceptance. I have discovered a comfort with myself. When I discover that comfort with myself, then I can be by myself. Today I cannot be by myself, I am not comfortable with myself. When I sit quietly, then I become very restless because I don't like what's going on in my mind. I don't like myself. So discovering a comfort, that's called yoga. That helps me to discover the comfort with myself. Living a way of life in keeping with values, which values are in keeping with this basic vision of life. This is the whole culture is just based on this. Even though it looks as though the Hindus are worshipping forms, but all of this is ultimately leads to this. As I said, because not only there is one God, but there is only God. And whatever there is God, and therefore to recognize the truth. So this is the vision of the Upanishads. They provide the vision. And texts like Bhagavad Gita also provide the way. So Bhagavad Gita provides not only the vision, but it also provides the way. Upanishads basically confine themselves to providing the vision. Who doesn't require anything else? That's why we say that Upanishads are generally addressed to the students who have already gained a maturity by living a mature way of life. But then, those who need maturity also, for them there is Brahma Vidya as well as Yoga Shastra, meaning is perception of life as well as the way of life which is called Yoga. So then, we require both in our life. It's not that both have to be mutually exclusive. You can pursue both. In the sense that I can pursue my study and clarity of understanding comes. At the same time, I try to live that clarity in my life, which gives me further maturity. That maturity gives me further clarity. That clarity gives me further maturity, and thus it becomes an upward spiral. It is not that, therefore, we can perform the actions in that spirit, which is conducive to gaining this knowledge. And this is the basic teaching of the Upanishad, Tattvamasi. And it's expressed in different statements, whether it's Prajnanam Brahma, or Ham Brahmasmi, or Tattvamasi. And so, in order for this equation to work, I must become free from the various complexes. All the complexes are derived because of identification with the personality. So, more importance I give to my personality, more strong the complexes become, and more isolated I become. And therefore, slowly dropping the complexes arising from the identification of personality, which is what we call ego. And therefore, humility becomes a value. Assertiveness, all of this also is dropped. Assertiveness always, selfishness, self-centeredness, all of these are values that in fact go against my own nature. And so not asserting, but offering. Not egocentric, but then the duty. It's not life of demands, but the life of duty. All of these will make sense when this basic vision is understood. Then the whole scheme of things, will become very clear. Then we can see the place of everything. Place of worship also, rituals also, values also, duty also, because all of these help in the process of growth. And value of renunciation also, that a time has to come that I need some leisure, I need freedom from any demands and activities, so that I can, because I wish to contemplate, I wish to assimilate the knowledge, I wish to abide in that knowledge. That is where renunciation of action also becomes relevant. So action also is relevant, renunciation also is relevant for the person depending upon what is the stage of his maturity. And this is the knowledge therefore which is very practical. This is the only thing that is practical really. And more we live this, more true we are to our own self. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.